Turn on the news and the story sounds clean. The job market holds, and unemployment sits near 4.2%. Wall Street keeps printing records. On paper, the machine hums along just fine. Then you walk into a mall on a Saturday, and it's quiet. Not busy quiet. Empty quiet. Lights on. Music playing to nobody. Half the storefronts papered over. You can hear your own shoes on the tile. Same at the airport. Long stretches of terminal sitting dead between the crowds. Something doesn't line up. Here's the part nobody says out loud. That same steady economy just posted inflation at 4.2%. Highest readings since 2023. Prices aren't cooling, they're climbing again. So which version is real? The one on the ticker or the one under your feet? Both. That's the whole problem. Two realities running at once inside one country. One of them gets broadcast every single night. The other you feel at the register, at the pump, in your gut when rent is due. The gap between them isn't noise, it's the story. Most people ask the wrong question. They keep asking whether America is sliding toward recession, whether the country is quietly cracking apart. Wrong frame. Because what if the economy isn't the problem? What if the problem is the dashboard? Think about a car. You're driving. The fuel gauge reads full. The speedometer says 60. Every light on the panel glows green. So you keep your foot down. But the gauges are broken. And the tank is nearly dry. You don't feel the trouble until the engine quits on the highway. That's where we are. And the gauges everyone trusts have stopped telling the truth. The headline numbers. The record markets. The packed airports in rich cities. They describe a country most people don't actually live in. The empty mall isn't proof of collapse, and neither is the silent airport. They're stranger than that. They're the warning light nobody's reading. So this isn't another sky is falling video. I'm going to do the opposite. I'll show you why the surface looks fine, why that surface is lying, and what the quiet is really measuring. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you can start guarding the one economy that actually pays your bills. Yours. Let's get into it. To see the quiet clearly, we have to back up. This didn't start in a mall. It started with an idea. The idea was motion. After the Second World War, America built itself around movement. Families left the crowded cities and spread out into brand new suburbs. The government laid a web of interstate highways across the whole map. A car in the driveway meant freedom. A ticket on a plane meant opportunity. And out in those fresh neighborhoods, developers dropped malls like watering holes. A thirsty middle class drank. From above, the country looked alive, like a body with a million vessels all pumping at once. People moved to work. They moved to shop. They moved to see the ocean, to visit family, to chase something more. Under all that motion sat one quiet promise. Tomorrow would be bigger than today. That was the real deal. Not just a house. A bigger house next time. Not just a job. A raise. Not just this town. A better one down the road. People believed the door ahead would always swing wider. So they spent like it always would. And that belief did real work. It's the reason a young couple signed a 30-year mortgage without flinching. The reason people took the harder job, the bigger loan, the second kid. Optimism wasn't a mood, it was infrastructure. It quietly underwrote every big decision in the country. Pull it out, and those decisions don't just pause. They reverse. Here's what most people miss. The malls never caused that prosperity. The packed airports didn't either. They were symptoms, side effects of a country that felt sure it was climbing. And the building was staggering. At the peak, America threw up store space faster than any nation on earth. To this day, it holds more retail space per person than any country in the world. Not close. Way out front. More square footage of stores per living human than anywhere on the planet. Air travel told the same story. Decade after decade, more people flew, more often, to more places. Every runway, every food court, every parking deck rested on a single bet. The crowds would keep swelling. the money would keep moving. The demand would never stop. A whole way of life got wired to that assumption, that forward motion was permanent, that the country would always be headed somewhere better. So sit with the obvious question. What happens to a place built entirely on motion when the motion stalls? When the busiest rooms in the country go still? When the monuments to spending and travel fall silent at once? Hold that thought, because the next part gets uncomfortable. Want to feel how the country is changing? You don't need a report. You don't need a spreadsheet. You just need to stand still. Pick a mall on a weekend afternoon. Pick an airport at what used to be rush hour. And listen. The thing that gets people isn't a sound. It's the absence of one. Anyone who grew up in the 80s or 90s remembers the mall as a whole day. Not just shopping. It was where you met your friends. Where you caught a movie, grabbed food, wandered with no plan and no money and felt like part of something. The smell of the pretzel stand. The hum of 100 overlapping conversations. You didn't need a reason to be there. You just went. The mall was a town square with a roof. Now walk one of those same corridors. The echo hits you first. Your footsteps bounce off the tile. Past one gated store after another. Some of these places are technically open, and the air conditioning hums. The fountains still run, but it feels like a theater after the crowd went home. The set still stands. The show is over. The airports carry the same ghost. Not everyone, just enough of them to feel like a pattern. Terminals that used to turn now hold long dead zones between the rushes. Gates so still the agent hears a conversation 3 rows back. People once showed up 2 hours early, terrified of missing a flight. Now he can feel like the airport is waiting on you. Sounds like a joke. Doesn't land like one, because these were never just buildings, they were scoreboards. A busy mall meant people felt safe spending. A busy airport meant people felt safe going somewhere. Confidence you could see and hear. So when both go quiet at once, the story stops being about stores. It stops being about airlines. I've talked to people who used to fly across the country a few times a year to see family without a second thought. Now every one of those trips is a math problem. It's not that they stopped loving anyone, because the love is still intact. What moved was the budget. And ask people straight. The answer surprises you. The desire didn't die. Most still say they want to travel. Still want to gather in real rooms with real people. Still want the weekend away. The wanting is whole, but what cracked underneath it is something else entirely. And notice the new habit that comes with it. The second guessing. Booking a flight used to be a 2-minute decision. Now it's a project. You compare 3 sites. You wait for a fare drop. You screenshot the price and sit on it for a week. Buying a plane ticket started to feel like buying a refrigerator. A big, deliberate purchase you talk yourself into. That hesitation is the tell. When a small choice starts to feel heavy, the money isn't the only thing that got tighter. The confidence did too. So, is this just a shift in taste? People choosing screens over stores? Couches over gates? Or is the quiet pointing somewhere deeper, far below the surface? Here's the trap in the easy answer. It's tempting to say people simply changed. They shop online now. They stream at home. They lost the travel bug. Clean story. Fits on a headline. Look closer though, and it falls apart. Fast. Let me show you why. Start with the wanting. It never left, and the appetite is intact. What changed is the power to feed it. And that is a completely different problem. Picture a family that still dreams of the summer road trip. Same as always. But this year, the rent jumped. Groceries climbed. The car insurance bill landed like a fist. The interest on every card crept up. So the trip is the first thing to go. Not because they stopped wanting it. Because the math stopped allowing it. This is the part the cheerful headlines skip, so let's do the actual arithmetic. You deserve numbers, not vibes. Take your paycheck. Over the past year, average wages rose about 305%. Sounds like a raise. Feels like progress. Except prices over that same stretch rose 4.2%. Read that again. Your pay went up. Your buying power went down. You earned more dollars, and each one bought less than the year before. That isn't a raise, it's a pay cut wearing a raise's clothes. Now stack the bills. Because what's draining people isn't the fun stuff. It's the required stuff. Watch how the month actually unfolds. The paycheck lands and rent leaves first before you even blink. Then the car payment. Then the insurance you can't legally skip. Then the utilities. Then the minimum on the cards. By the time the necessities clear, the money for living is already thin. The essentials eat the plate before dessert even shows up. A weekend of shopping loses to a car repair. A plane ticket loses to a month of electricity. That's not weak willpower. That's a budget running triage. Then there's the big one. The house. For most of American history, owning a home was the floor of the dream. The baseline, work hard, and you get your keys. That floor is buckling now. Home prices are up 60% since 2019. 6-0 in a handful of years. The monthly payment on a typical home now runs about $2,570. Once you count the loan, the taxes, the insurance. To carry that, a family needs to earn near $126,700 a year. Let that land. Out of roughly 46 million renters in this country, only about 6 million clear that bar. 6 million out of 46. For everyone else, the door to ownership just quietly shut, and it shows up in the data. Home sales fell to their lowest level in 3 decades. The share of Americans who own their home dropped for the first time in 8 years. The old climb, from renter to owner, from owner to wealth, is jamming for millions of people who did everything they were told to do. Then there's one more weight nobody likes to name. Debt. When wages lose to prices and rent eats the check, people bridge the gap with credit. The car becomes the buffer, and that buffer charges interest, month after month, compounding quietly in the dark. So even standing still now costs money. Think about how brutal that is. You can run the whole race by the rules, hit every mark, skip nothing, and still slide backward. The treadmill sped up. Your legs didn't. And here's the cruelest part of the debt trap. It's invisible while it's happening. Nobody wakes up and decides to fall into a hole. It arrives one small gap at a time. A rough month covered by the card. A car repair you didn't have the cash for. A holiday you refused to cancel. Each one feels reasonable on its own. Then the balance stops going down, and the minimum payment barely dents it. And the interest quietly does its work in the background, every single day. Whether you think about it or not, that's the difference between good math and bad math. Good math compounds for you. Bad math compounds against you. And most people never see which one they're standing on until it's already big. So here's the honest reframe. The empty mall doesn't prove people hate shopping. The silent airport doesn't prove people hate travel. It proves something simpler and heavier. More of them are paying for what they must and letting go of what they love. That's not a change in taste. That's a change in what's possible. And when millions make the same cut at the same time, it stops being personal. It becomes the economy. Which brings us to the machine underneath all of it. Here's a phenomenon almost nobody names. And it matters more than the empty storefronts themselves. Money can still exist in an economy and stop reaching the places that keep communities alive. See a dead mall, and the first instinct is to pity the shops. Fair enough, but that's only the top layer. The deeper thing is what money actually does when it's healthy. Cash isn't the puddle. It's a current. The value isn't how much water sits there. It's how many places the water runs through. Go back to that busy 90s mall. A family kills a Saturday there. Lunch upstairs. New sneakers for the kid. 2 tickets to whatever showing. A few dollars to park. A drink before the drive home. In a single afternoon, one slice of money touched a dozen sets of hands. It fed the cashier and the cook, the guard at the door, the teenager wiping tables, the supplier who filled the shelves that morning. That dollar didn't sit still. It kept moving. And every time it moved, it fed somebody new. That movement has a name. Economists call it velocity. How fast money changes hands. And velocity, not the raw pile of cash, is what makes an economy feel alive. Multiply it across a whole town. When the current runs fast, a little money lights up a lot of lives. Hand to hand. Job to job. When it slows, the same dollars just sit there. The town doesn't have less money on paper. It has slower money, and slow money feels exactly like poverty, even when the totals say otherwise. Now watch the mall go dark because it's not only the stores that bleed. The diner across the lot loses its lunch crowd. The delivery driver loses routes. The cleaning crew loses hours. The property next door loses value. One missing link and the whole chain slackens. Zoom out to the street around it. The dead mall doesn't stay contained. The gas station on the corner sells less fuel because fewer people are driving over. The daycare loses a family because one parent just lost their retail hours. The local paper loses ad money. The city collects less in sales tax, so roads and schools feel it a year later. This is the part that never makes the news. A closure isn't an event. It's a slow leak in 100 directions at once. The airport tells the identical story. One family that doesn't fly isn't just an empty seat. It's a hotel room unbooked, a rental car unrented, a restaurant table nobody fills. A canceled trip isn't a plane on the tarmac. It's a stream of money that simply stopped moving. And here's the twist that splits this from the doom stories. The money didn't vanish. It's still here. Corporations post strong revenue and whole sectors keep growing. Ask where the money went, and the answer isn't gone. The answer is concentrated. It used to fall like rain on the whole garden. Now it pools, collecting in a few deep basins, while the rest of the ground goes dry. And when cash runs through fewer channels, the places built on foot traffic feel the drought first. That's why a hollow mall signals more than it seems. It isn't measuring shopping. It's measuring velocity, the real ground-level speed of money. Set by ordinary people making millions of small choices every single day. They hold. They skip. They wait. They keep the cash close because next month feels shaky. And when enough people hold at once, the current slows. The garden dries in patches. The malls go quiet, not because the money left the country, because it stopped passing through the rooms where regular people used to stand, which leads to the question under all of it. If the money is still here, but flowing through fewer places, where is it pooling? And who's standing where it lands? Look at the headlines and America seems fine. Markets up. Big companies fat with profit. The airports in wealthy cities still jammed at the holidays. High-end resorts booked solid. Now look at a different corner of that same nation. A family scraps a trip to see grandparents because the fares are brutal. A worker skips vacation another year to keep the essentials paid. A neighborhood mall bleeds tenants, month after month. 2 stories, both true, side by side. Here's the thing to understand about America right now. It isn't a clean decline. It's a split, like 2 countries printed on the same map. In one, booking a flight is routine, barely a thought. In the other, every purchase is a negotiation, a second guess, a quiet calculation about what has to give. And what makes it so confusing is that both are real. That's why one person swears the economy is booming, while another feels the walls pressing in on all sides. Neither one is lying. They just woke up in different halves of the same system. Picture 2 people watching the same news segment. One nods along. Record markets, strong spending, sounds about right, matches are weak. The other stares at the screen like it's describing a foreign country. Both are watching the truth, just not the same truth. And here's the part that isolates people. The one who's struggling starts to think it's a personal failing, that everyone else figured out something they missed. They just landed on the wrong side of a split they never chose. Now the dashboard from earlier finally clicks. The gauges look fine because they mostly read the top half. The stock market, corporate profits, total spending. Those numbers ride on the people who are doing great. So the panel glows green even as the tank runs dry for everyone else. Let me put real numbers on it. Because this is the math your family actually needs. Take the bottom 80% of households. Everyone earning under about $175,000 a year. For them, spending has barely moved. Adjust for inflation and they're running in place. Flat. No real growth in what they can afford. Going back years now. Meanwhile, the gains piled up at the very top. And a huge reason is what the wealthy own. The top 1% of Americans hold roughly half of all the stock in the country. Half. So when the market sets another record, it doesn't lift the whole nation. It lifts the people who were already lifted. Their homes gained value, their portfolios swelled. Their spending kept the headline numbers strong, while the majority just tried to hold the line. That's the crack the empty malls are sitting on top of. So the record on the ticker is real. It's just measuring a room most people aren't standing in. The market can hit a record high. Your grocery bill can hit its own record the same week. Both true. Both on the same day. That's not a paradox. That's the split showing up in your own kitchen. Now, some of you are pushing back right now, and you're partly right. You're thinking, hang on, this is just Amazon. People shop online. Malls were dying anyway. And yes, that part is real. E-commerce gutted the old model. Streaming did empty the theaters. Some of this quiet is just the internet doing its work. But don't let that answer put you to sleep, because it can't carry the whole load. It doesn't explain airports going soft. It doesn't explain families rationing trips to the people they love most. It doesn't explain wages losing to prices for the bottom 80%. Online shopping is a piece of it. It is not why the ground feels different under your feet. Lean on it to wave everything away and you've fallen for the trick. A broken gauge keeps you calm while the tank drains. So the tired question, whether the economy is strong or weak, is the wrong one entirely. The sharper one is this: good for who? And grinding down whom? Because the answer flips depending on which of the two countries you woke up in this morning. Which brings us to the biggest turn in the whole story. Because what's really vanishing from those quiet halls isn't shopping at all. It's something most people haven't even named yet. So ask what's truly draining away. Is it the stores? The flights? Or something buried under both? The ghost mall was never just a retail story. The empty airport was never just an airline story. They're thermometers, but they aren't reading the economy. They're reading something rarer: hope. For most of the last century, Americans grew up on one simple belief: work hard, and the road ahead opens wider than the road behind. You'd buy the first house, take the family somewhere every summer, move to a better city if you wanted, build a life a notch above your parents. Notice what kept people going. It wasn't how much they had in the moment. It was the feeling of climbing, the sense of being on the way up. That feeling is the fuel, and it's running low. Here's the strange truth about people. We can carry a shocking load of hardship, as long as we believe we're rising. Give someone a brutal year but a clear path up, and they'll grind straight through it. Take away the path, and something breaks that no paycheck ever fixes. So think again about that crowded mall. It never just measured spending power. It measured confidence. A busy airport never just measured travel. It measured belief. Belief that going somewhere opens a door. That the future is worth investing in. That's why the empty version cuts so deep. Those dark corridors and silent gates aren't only quiet. They're mournful. They whisper about a time when the future felt closer, when more of it felt within reach. And this is the real cost. When people delay the house, cancel the trip, shrink the plan, something quieter goes missing too. They're not just skipping a few purchases. They're losing their grip on their own lives. The world stayed exactly the size it always was. The part of it they can actually reach just keeps closing in. Picture standing before an enormous map. Every city still there. Every possibility still printed on the paper. But one by one, the roads that connect you to them get blocked off. The map didn't shrink. Your access did. And that's a quieter kind of loss than a layoff or foreclosure. There's no headline for it. No line on a chart. It just shows up as a slow narrowing. The vacation that becomes a staycation. The move that becomes another lease renewal. The dream that becomes a maybe someday. Each one small, and together a whole life getting smaller. And you can't graph that. It doesn't fit in a chart, hiding in the trips not taken. The moves not made. The plans quietly filed under someday. It lives in the gap between the life people imagined and the one the math allows. So maybe the mall isn't what's disappearing. Maybe the airport isn't either. What's being tested is older and deeper. The sense of motion. The sense of choice. The stubborn faith that tomorrow could be wider than today. That faith built the malls in the first place, and it filled the airports. It was the engine under all the movement we started with. And an engine, once it stalls, doesn't always turn back over on its own, which is exactly the question we have to face. Can it be restarted? And if it can, what do you do right now? While the rest of the country keeps reading a broken gauge? So let's end where the doom videos never do, with what you can actually do. Here's the good news buried in all of this. History is clear on one point. Every economy breathes. It expands. It stalls. It recovers. Booms end. Slumps end too. The point was never to scare you into freezing up. The point is to stop trusting the wrong gauge. The single most important shift is this. Stop confusing the headline economy with your economy. The national numbers measure the top half. Your household measures your household. Those are two different machines. So build your own dashboard and read that one instead. Step 1. Know your own velocity. For one full month, track where every dollar actually goes. Not a guess. The real map. Most people have never once seen it. And it's rarely the coffee. It's the fixed stuff. The rent, the insurance, the loans, the subscriptions that renew in the dark. You can't plug a leak. You can't see. Step 2. Watch one number above all the rest. Your fixed costs as a share of your income. The rent and the required bills, divided by what comes in. When that share climbs too high, you have no room left to breathe. No cushion when the surprise lands. Push it down even a little and you buy back your options. Step 3. Build the buffer before the reward. Not a fortune, a cushion. 1 month of essentials in cash. Then 2. Parked somewhere you won't touch it. That buffer is what keeps a bad month from turning into a debt spiral. It's the line between an inconvenience and a crisis. Step 4. Treat high-interest debt like a fire, not a bill. It compounds against you the same way savings compound for someone else. Every dollar you pull off a high-rate balance earns a guaranteed return. No market on earth can promise that. That's not hustle. That's stopping the bleeding. Step 5. Protect the thing this whole video is really about. Your sense of motion. Not with a plane ticket you can't afford. With one small, deliberate step forward that you can. A skill. A side income. A plan with an actual date on it. Momentum you control instead of momentum that headlines pretend you already have. That last one matters more than it sounds. Because the whole trap of this moment is the feeling that you're stuck. That the exits are sealed. And for the giant national economy, maybe they partly are. But your economy is smaller and more responsive. It answers to your choices in a way the country never will. One deliberate step doesn't fix the map. It just proves the roads aren't all blocked. And that's usually enough to keep moving. None of that is glamorous. None of it is a get-rich promise. It's the opposite of the hustle noise, just the quiet math of taking back control. One number at a time. Because the empty mall and the silent airport are telling a real story. Just not the story of a country that's finished. It's the story of a nation mid-transition. Old symbols gone dark. New ones not yet built. In a moment like that, the winners aren't waiting for the gauge to flip green. They're the ones who stopped watching it and started reading their own. So here's a question that actually matters. Not whether a recession is coming. That's the small question, and the real one is this. When the old signals stop matching real life, do you keep driving on a broken gauge? Or do you build a new one? For the only economy you can actually steer. Yours. Tell me what you're seeing where you live. Is your mall a ghost town or still packed? Is your airport dead or slammed? Drop it in the comments. Those on-the-ground reports beat any headline I could ever quote. And if you want more of this, looking past the surface into the plumbing, then you know the drill. Follow along, because the most important stories usually start in the quietest rooms. One last note, and it matters. This video exists to analyze and explain using public information. It isn't financial advice. It isn't a prediction. Think of it as a map, not a marching order. What you do with it is yours to decide. Thanks for staying to the very end. I'll see you in the next one.